Coming up on today's show.
It's where you look outside yourself at other people and you think, I don't measure up. I don't have, the accomplishments and successes that person has.
They always say, surround yourself with people that are better than you. So naturally, if you compare yourself, it's going to be hard because if you're getting the right people around you, there are going to be maybe more successful or do have different skills than you.
So the first thing would be to identify, where do you feel like an imposter?
The 3 Blocks to Success, Part 2, today on Keeping You Organized. Well, hello and welcome back to Keeping You Organized. If you joined us last time, you'll know that we were talking with Lisa Montanaro about the 3 Blocks to Success, part of a speech she had that talked about Cinderella actually had 3 ugly stepsisters. We got into that last time, so I would encourage you to go back. But Lisa, welcome back to Keeping You Organized.
Hi, John. Hello, everyone.
Well,
nice to be here.
Yeah. So, last time, we're talking about these 3 blocks. So maybe before we get into number 2 this time, let's just do a quick overview of the 3 and then kind of recap just a little tiny bit about the number 1, which was the perfection trap. And okay. then we'll move in. So quick thumbnail sketch.
Okay, good. So the 3 blocks to success from my standpoint are the perfection trap, the comparison trap, and the imposter syndrome. So I want our listeners to think about what it is that gets in the way of you being successful. And it is different for different folks. Some people have all 3 of these, and some people just have 1, maybe 2. But these cause fear and doubt and lack of confidence and a lot of second guessing. So think of them as, you're moving forward and you're on this path to being successful, whatever success means to you. And then you realize that you're stuck in a trap. And hopefully after this episode, you'll start to identify this trap and then be able to overcome it. So we talked about the first trap is the perfection trap. And perfectionists tend to think that things aren't perfect and therefore aren't good enough quality. And it gets in the way of them releasing things and sharing them with the world. There are a lot of people out there that have amazing ideas and gold mine of talents and skills, but they don't feel that they're perfect enough to share them. And that's a shame. And so I'm going to encourage everyone to try to get their feet out of the quicksand of the perfection trap and think done is better than perfect.
Yes.
And start releasing things to the world. Yeah.
Great. All right. So number 2 is the comparison trap, right? So yes. Let's do a little overview on what this is and maybe get some examples on how we can not get caught in that trap.
Absolutely. So the comparison trap is where you look outside of yourself at others. And I will give you one gender difference that I've noticed here. Women tend to look outwardly at other women about things that are a little more having to do with their clothing and their looks, so physical presence. They might, think a woman is prettier. They might think she has better fashion sense, but they also compare themselves on their mothering, their parenting skills. So they tend to compare in those ways. Whereas men we've seen tend to compare themselves to other men on status issues of money, the type of car they drive, the type of house, and the type of vacations they keep. And that is a sweeping overgeneralization of the sexes of the genders, but that is kind of how the comparison trap has manifested for men and women. So it's where you look outside yourself at other people and you think, I don't measure up. I don't have, the accomplishments and successes that person has. Instead of, John, looking at someone else and saying, geez, John has this awesome show that he does. What could I do that's similar? Maybe I'll start a podcast. Maybe I'll start blogging. So the way to overcome the comparison trap is to start looking at other people as inspiration and motivation so that you can do your own version of what they're doing and make it your own.
Now, I would imagine in this day of social media, the comparison trap is really easy to fall into. Don't you think?
Yes, there are so many upsides of being connected in every way, podcasts, social media, video, YouTube, but there are a lot of downsides to it. And one of them is that people get really caught up in this comparison trap. I have some clients that go into analysis paralysis where they just research and keep looking at everyone else. And I tell them, okay, I'm going to put a cap on this. At some point, you need to say, here are 5 websites that I love, and then create your own. Or, here are, 5 authors that are writing great books, and then go write your own. So we need to figure out how to look externally in a way that motivates and inspires us, but doesn't stop us dead in our tracks, and doesn't make us think, I'll never measure up, therefore I won't do it. I'll be honest that some of my clients, they suffer from this so much that I actually tell them to not look external at all until they're ready. Until they're totally ready. Yeah.
So would you use some kind of plan or time limitation, or like answer these 5 questions and then you're done? How do you put the parameters around it so they don't keep doing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would either put a time limitation on it, like, okay, go out for an hour and research this, or, go hear 5 other keynotes before you start creating your own. So I'd either put a quantifiable number on it or a time frame. I also have a rule, no negative self-talk. So while they're developing whatever they're developing on their road to success, they're not allowed to put themselves down. And it sounds like that should be such an easy rule, John, but it's not. And they catch themselves, and they'll either be on a Skype session with me, or they email me and say, oh, I'm doing it again, just because it doesn't serve to have all that negative talk about yourself. Well, and some type of limitation.
Well, and when you hear a lot of these self-improvement speakers talk, they always say, surround yourself with people that are better than you. So naturally, if you compare yourself, it's going to be hard, because if you're getting the right people around you, there are going to be maybe more successful or do have different skills than you. So is that something that you would kind of prescribe and just in the right dosage?
Yeah, I think you just said it at the end, in the right dosage. So I would want you to look at other people that have maybe achieved the level that you want to achieve, but I want you to think of a few things. One is the realities of what it took to get them there, because we only see the shiny, bright object. We see they've made it. And I want people to be, to recognize what it might have taken that person to get there and what has been maybe going on behind the scenes. And I would probably want you to pick 3 tiers, someone that's at your level, someone that's 1 level above you, and someone that's all the way at the successful level you want to be at. Maybe that's, a year from now, 5 years from now, because it's great that you want to surround yourself, with people that are all very successful and that are at tiers that are higher than you. But if I see that you're also suffering from the comparison trap syndrome, I will be careful to prescribe not too much of that. If I see you going down that path of, I'll never measure up. Look at everyone else.
Great. Anything else on the comparison trap before we move on?
I think that I would just take the words of Judy Garland, an amazing, successful actress who actually had some great quotes. And she said, be a first-rate version of yourself rather than a second-rate version of someone else. I just want to remind everyone that you are unique. And so when people say, well, it's already been done, it hasn't been done by you. So just remember that you have a unique thumbprint and that you bring something different to the table. And if you could constantly see yourself as an original, the comparison trap probably won't be as much of a trap for you.
I thought you were going to use the comparison line, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, but that would have been different. Yeah. It would have
been slightly different, but very cute.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hit the 3rd block to success, and then get everyone on their way to a more successful life and more productivity. We're with Lisa Montanaro, lisamontanaro.com, and we'll be right back. Now, there's a place just for you. Life can be busy, and you still have to keep it all together. That's why you like to be organized and in control. Introducing MyOrganized.life, a special place where you can get ideas and solutions to organize what's important to you, your important papers, your important decisions, your important life events. We show you the ideas and products to stay organized in your life. See what's new. Stop by and say hello. Visit us at any time at www.myorganized.life. It's just for you. MyOrganized.life by Smead. Find us at www.myorganized.life. MyOrganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about the 3 blocks to success, what we can do in our lives to be more productive, to be more successful, whatever your definition of success is. And we've got Lisa Montanaro from lisamontanaro.com. And Lisa, I think we're now into the 3rd area. What's number 3?
So number 3 is called the imposter syndrome. If you've never heard of it, it is where you walk around sadly feeling like a fake. And you've heard the term fake it until you make it. And some people can do that and can do it very well. And that's the way they improve and learn. But for many people, this imposter syndrome is a block to success because it makes them feel like such a fake that they actually don't participate. They don't even come to the table. They don't even come to the party, so to speak. Right. There have been many examples of it. I'm going to give you one example because she's so famous and most people will be able to recognize her. Jodie Foster. Okay. Has talked about how severely the imposter syndrome has affected her in her life. She has said that there's almost no set that she went on as an actress or director where she didn't think they're going to find out I have no idea what I'm doing. And this is from someone that by most people's standards is a, raving success as an actress and director. So it is an interesting thing to think about. And I think at some point in our life, in any setting, there are times when we're like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. And we talked a little earlier about if there really is a lack of competency and a lack of skills, and you were my client, I'd say, okay, what do we need to do to improve your skills? Right. But I'm talking about people that are, wildly talented and skilled, but yet still feel like an imposter within their own life.
Right. So what are some of the ways that you would help people avoid this trap?
I think I would ask them to follow what their triggers are. So for some people, there are certain settings that are more of a trigger for them, or certain situations that are more of a trigger for them. So the first thing would be to identify, where do you feel like an imposter? And for example, I have a client that's a CIO, Chief Information Officer of a major company, and she feels completely confident and competent except when one of the other vice presidents is in the room. So he just happens to push her buttons. But she has to work with him, right? So it's a matter of figuring out what the triggers are so that we could then go towards those triggers and figure out what we could do to overcome them. If it's really just, again, a competency issue, then one of the best things is to ask yourself, do I want to improve these skills? What I find fascinating is some people are like, oh, I feel like an imposter and I don't have the skills that it takes. But then they tell me that they don't want to have those skills. Well, it's not that important to me. Okay, then let's just give that up. Let's not even go there, But if it's something that's a core part of your life, your job, your career, and you feel like a fake, the first thing that I will do is give you homework, which is to go get your skills up to par.
Right.
So that usually will help.
Well, I think a lot of people probably don't want to look bad either, right? So some of it gets back into that self-esteem piece. And I people do get thrown into situations where maybe they aren't qualified. So I can see how this would keep you from being successful. What are some other examples? Do you have maybe another client example of how you've worked someone through the imposter syndrome?
Yes. So another example is with speakers. Like I'll work with a lot of budding speakers and they will tell me that the fear of public speaking is real for them. And I will definitely assign them to take a speaking class or to work with a speaking coach like me so that they feel more comfortable. But I will send them to do exactly what they're most afraid of, which is to go speak in, in all these different settings, because that's going to be the way they're going to overcome the imposter syndrome, is realizing, hey, I could do this. I have another client that is a writer, and she's surrounding herself with all these very famous authors. And I said, you know what, that's wonderful, but I want you to either meet these authors in a very relaxed setting, like at a writer's retreat, when you can see them as people and not these, gods that are untouchable, or I want you to work with some other writers that are not quite as famous as them, but maybe just released their debut novel. So you need to figure out what it is that's affecting the imposter syndrome, and do you need to go towards the dark? So what Jodie Foster said is, I just kept doing it. That's what she said to get over it. She kept doing it. And for some people that works really, really well. So I would prescribe them, go ahead and do it, or do it in small doses. What's another interesting thing, John, is some people can fake it till they make it. So they can overcome the imposter syndrome by putting on a smile and going into the fire, even though it feels so uncomfortable for them. And you and I have probably talked about this before, but there are people that as they're faking it, they actually believe it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so as they're going through the motions, they start to realize, I'm doing this. So I would want to know if someone is the type that can fake it so they make it, or if they need to do some other work first. And if they do need to do some other work first, I'd pull them back a tiny bit and prep them more.
Right. Great. Well, is there anything else on the imposter syndrome, or have we kind of wrapped this thing up?
I think we've really wrapped it up. I think that we need to just remember with the imposter syndrome that usually the toughest critic will be you.
Yes.
That we fear all the external criticism, but really the toughest person is usually sitting between our own ears. And if we can remember that, it's helpful.
Yeah. I kind of think about Jodie Foster, if she's saying she's faking it, which is kind of what acting is. So maybe she's actually really good at it. And that's kind of a circular reasoning thing, but we'll have to analyze that on a different show. Hey,
that's a good point.
Before we go, tell us what kinds of services you provide and how people can get a hold of you.
Sure, absolutely. So head on over to lisamontanaro.com. I have a wonderful free digital toolkit that will help you boost your productivity. You can sign up for my newsletter, read some of the blog, connect with me on social media. I do productivity consulting and success coaching for organizations and also for individuals. So would love to hear from you. Great.
Well, Lisa, as usual, it's been great. It's good to kick off 2018 with some good productivity. It's going to be a successful year for all of us, and we'll have you back again.
Thank you. And don't let those 3 ugly stepsisters come find you this year.
Yeah. Well, I think the clock is striking near midnight here, and if we don't get going, we're going to turn into a pumpkin. So Cinderella's sisters might be successful after all. So, folks, there you have it. The 3 blocks, get over them, get around them, do whatever it takes to make this a great and successful year. And we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized.